Welcome to Home Dad Chat, brought to you by the National At-Home Dad Network. My name is Brock,
My name is Danny.
and we are here to talk about life as stay-at-home dads. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show.
No, I don't want much. I even love handmade crafts made of macaroni. Come on now, you should know me. Times I might eat too much. No worry about my weight, got the dad bod rocking on me. Sketches on my feet, cargo shorts look good on me. I'm a dad, that's what I do.
Hey, welcome back to Home Dad Chat. We're going to be having a fun, deeper conversation than we've had in previous weeks. We're going to be talking about taking care of yourself, something that gets swept under the rug, and something that definitely doesn't happen maybe in as timely of a fashion as it should. And it might actually be something that might save your life if you're not doing that. So we'll be discussing that tonight. Before we get into that, Danny, last week we discussed side gigs and we discussed mentorships. And when I listened to the podcast as I was editing it, I realized that one of the things that we said we were going to do during that show was talk about like ways to sort of like that are beneficial for kind of moving into jobs or whatever down the line kind of deal. So, and we never really talked about that exactly. So I guess my question to you is, and I will be able to answer this as well, in your time as a stay-at-home dad, have you kept track of things that you have done to basically build a resume to be able to present something to an employer?
All right. So I'm going to say first, you probably have an answer to this, and I don't. No, I don't. Because I'm already 52. All right. And realistically, with my youngest being 6 years old, I'm going to retire or hit retirement age with this job. This is what I'm going to be doing until, I've got at least 12 years to go. So that's 64. And realistically, I can't imagine that your kids all instantly disappear into whatever life they're going to lead, college or military or, family or whatever they go to do at 18 and 0 days. I have a fairly strong expectation that my kids are going to even come back every once in a while, like after college, even, or who knows what. I'm in no way upset or derisive of kids that are still living with their parents. When you're 20 years old, if you're still living with your parents, I don't care. No, you want to get out and you want to get your own life. And I'm sure most parents want their kids to get out. I would like to give my kids moving boxes for the 18th birthday and just like, but realistically, I'm still going to be doing this for, I don't know, at least 15 years. And it won't be as extensive. I'll be slowly whittling away the number of children that I have to take care of in the house. But I'm really going to expect to retire from this. I have looked at, what if I want to go get a part-time job? I've looked at quitting multiple times. And in those cases, I have absolutely looked at, okay, what do I have to make in order to pay for childcare and to get out of this? What do I got to do? And that for me is much more about, I'm going to have to find some goofy secondhand job that nobody else really wanted. And I'm going to go, I'm going to go do whatever. I'm going to be the guy at Home Depot that tells you where the lumber is or something like that. That doesn't take a huge amount of skill.
It has some flexibility in it too, right?
Yeah, but I'm not going to do that. My wife won't let me quit. There's no way. She's definitely, with 4 kids, especially, but I think with even if we just had 1 kid, there's too much up and down about the job day. I can't say, hey, I can work Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. Even if my kids are in school, we have holidays, we have sick days, we have those days when, if you're the room parent, there's
you're going north too, so you're going to have snow days.
All sorts of stuff. So for me, no, I've never really thought about what I needed to do to get to keep a record of anything that I've done or to get a job after this one.
Sure. So, no, I mean,
sorry.
No, that makes total sense, man. That makes total sense. I mean, you're an older dad, so I mean that it falls in line. Like, you're going to basically ride the wave all the way to the end, kind of deal.
Yeah.
You're in it to win it. Me, I'm about 10 years younger, so for me, I don't know. My youngest is 5. So I've got 13 years, which would put me at about 50, almost 55.
Mhm.
But even though, like, sometimes for me, for instance, like my kids are going to go off to school. Like I am looking for just those kind of like odd jobs or whatever, just to have extra pocket money or
Mhm.
whatever it is. Stuff that doesn't dig into the budget, maybe even just, to be able to do that kind of fun stuff. And
Mhm.
uh, that was the one thing, like Corey was very, very like, hey, you should have like a record of the things that you're doing. Like if you're ever trying to get into something, at least you can show like, yeah, I've been a stay-at-home dad, but I've also been doing X, Y, and Z and all these other things and
Mhm.
stuff. So I have talked to different guys at Home DadCon before about it. I know there's been a couple of guys who have presented actually on it. David Stanley is going to be presenting something about basically how to make yourself look presentable to different prospects. He's also talking about like pitching yourself, like if you're trying to do something content wise. But I think it all falls in line with the same idea: is that how do you elevator pitch somebody? Hey,
Yeah.
I'm worth hiring, kind of deal. And
Right. What have
I
I been
get
doing for the last 10 years or whatever?
yeah, exactly. But I think that even from the standpoint of what we're doing, what other guys are doing, I think they tend to question, especially new stay-at-home dads, like, is this the end? Like, what else is there, kind of? And
Mhm.
my encouragement to anybody that's trying to figure that out is keep track of that kind of stuff. If get interviewed by the Wall Street Journal about being a stay-at-home dad or something, like put that
Yeah.
down, like keep that article, like write it down, have a running Google Doc, that kind of stuff. If you're volunteering at your school, put that in there too. Those kind of things are going to look
Mhm.
really good when you go to somebody. And so that's kind of what I basically was saying when it comes to like a resume, is like, hey, like, I did these things. Like I volunteered with Habitat for Humanity.
Mhm.
I did instructional, sports, so I was coaching, teaching kids stuff. And those kind of things are just, I feel like they're going to be beneficial for people to have, to be able to know. So that's kind of where I was going with that. I didn't want to get too far into it, but basically I just
Yeah.
wanted to touch on that, anybody that listened to last week's episode, that was something that didn't get touched on. And so I wanted to really just quickly, before we got into everything else, like just kind of hit
Yeah.
that note.
I want to apologize too, because we tend to rabbit trail off, and I think having a plan ahead of time is a great idea. But I don't think we should tell people to expect us to talk about certain
No,
things.
you're fine.
Just like, well, Danny talked for 74 minutes about the fact that he doesn't have to get another job. Great, Danny.
All right. Well, I got one other thing it's a rabbit trail off before we actually get into talking about the self-care and
All
taking
right.
care of ourselves stuff. So on Friday, there was the new Space Jam movie came out on HBO Max and in the theaters or whatever. And I didn't get to ask you this before we got started, but did you get it? Did you see it, or have you seen any previews for it?
I'm sorry. There was one Space Jam movie, and it was great, and that's all I'm aware of. Whatever else you're talking
Okay.
about,
I figured you were going to be in that camp.
no,
Okay.
man,
No,
I'm
wait,
sorry.
listen. No, listen. I let me change your mind. Let me just change your mind on it a little bit.
You're
Okay.
not.
Yeah. You wait. So here's the thing. The original Space Jam movie, Michael Jordan, all-star Looney Tune characters, right? Like, I mean, just Danny DeVito's in there, like all this different stuff, right? So it's a great movie, got a lot of good stuff to it. But I mean, the main storyline was just basically like, can they win? That kind of thing, right? Like, but there's all the nostalgia of the Looney Tunes. So
Mhm.
great stuff. We all grew up with it. Love it. So in comes the new Space Jam with LeBron James. And immediately, now listen. Yeah. Well, here's the thing. Do you know what the premise of that movie is about? Because
Uh,
it actually has a plot, like a deep plot to it compared to the original.
okay. Cool. All right. Please tell us more, because I don't want to
Yeah.
be completely critical and derisive of what you're bringing up right now, and I will if I don't.
Nope.
You please, sir. Tell me what you discovered.
So here's the thing. That movie is all about fatherhood. And it's all about how we as dads or parents for that matter, how we go about seeing what our kids are doing, the things that they're interested in and what they are going towards, and what we in our minds have like, this is where I want to see my kid go. And so in the movie, you have the son of LeBron James, who is really big into programming and video games and building a video game. And LeBron James is like that dad who just is like, I don't get it. Like, I'm a fundamental guy. Like, I mean, he's, for all intents and purposes, LeBron James watched Michael Jordan through his career. And it's sort of one of those, like, he is the I want to be like Mike type kid.
Yeah.
And so he, for all intensive purposes, is also very old school in some of his thoughts based on that, and also on how to go about obtaining a high skill level for, you know, the sport of basketball or whatever. So anyway, he's very much not for what his kid is into, and it sort of pushes him away. And in the movie, what you find out is that as a parent, if you are not willing to get excited and somehow get involved in what your kid is passionate about, they'll find somebody else who might attach to them and be that quote unquote parent figure, support figure. And they might not be the best person to do that because they are not a part of your family. They might have manipulative and other personal gains that they're trying to get out of your kid, which in turn just turns into a really toxic situation. And so to me, like watching the movie, like I was exactly like you. I was like, no way, there's only one Space Jam. Like it's Michael Jordan, da da da. But here's the thing. You've got really cool nostalgia stuff. They really get into like all this Warner Brothers nostalgia of like even the movies too. I mean, it's pretty wild. I thought that it was interesting that they called it the Looney Tune verse because like you've got the Marvel side of things coming out with the multiverse with Doctor Strange, and I'm like, this is really funny. Like they're kind of poking the bear a little bit on that one because you know how DC and Marvel go back and forth, and so that comes into play. But honestly, like to me, the main storyline in here is this idea of like, wake up parents. Like you need to realize like it's okay for your kid to have a different path and trajectory for their life and career than what you thought when it was like, ooh, we want to have kids and I can't wait till they become blah, 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 blah. And it's like, no, like they get to choose what they want to do. You got to choose, they get to choose. If you didn't get to choose, I'm sorry. Like that's a whole nother box we won't even get into, but you've got to see that. And so that's why I say like it's a different movie than the original. And to me, like I enjoyed it from all those standpoints because of that. Like I'm a big nostalgia guy and I'm really big into the idea of like, just because I thought my kid, I think my kid would want to go this route, or even right now, you know, you see stuff like where it's like my son's really big into animals, like my daughter is too. And so like, they're like, I want to do this, this, and this. And I'm like, that's great. Yeah. Like, what do you want to, you know, how do you want to go about that? 5-10 years from now, when they're getting ready to finish school, who knows what they're going to want to be doing. But at the same fact, like, I just want to be somebody who it's like, that's great. All right. Like, what can I do to help to get you there kind of deal, and not be like, that's not good. You know, that's not going to, you're not going to make much money doing that kind of thing. And, because I heard that as I was growing up too, when I would talk about different things that I wanted to do, it was like, that's not going to make you much money. It's like, that's okay. So,
well, and that is okay. It's a big difference in how we're raising our kids. Generationally, I mean, you mentioned like, if you didn't get to choose as a kid, a lot of kids didn't get to choose in the Gen X generation, which is my generation. And, the baby boomers absolutely did not get to choose what they really wanted to do. They didn't get to follow their heart or their dreams or anything else. They couldn't first. I mean, they had to get down to brass tacks or they weren't going to make it. So, but now that we've got, and especially I think millennials are a great example of it, where you can raise your kids because you have an amount of understanding of, okay, well, you need a job, you need to do this, you need this. Yes. These are all great things. These are very important things. but you also need to think about who you are and what you want. The old adage of people that would teach, like, my son's going to play football and he's going to be this and this, and you drive your kid into, and I shouldn't say football specifically, just a sport. Football, I think, is the most cliche. That's just, oh, well, of course it's football, but it could be baseball, it could be anything, but where you're pushing your kid into that and it's win, 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 let's focus, let's do this. Now, the percentage of children in each school who are actually going to go on to make money at a sport is like, I don't know if it can be less than 1% everywhere, but it's very, very, very few. LeBron James is a great example, though, of what can happen.
Yeah.
But he also has the physical skill. But moving beyond that, I want to go out and I want to throw the football or throw the frisbee or whatever with my kid, and my kid doesn't want to do it.
Right.
Okay. Well, what do you want to do, buddy? What are you interested in? And that's a hard lesson to learn, because for me, I'll put it in for one of the things that really, really touches me personally is martial arts. I really like the martial arts. I like the martial arts that I have studied in, that I've learned in, and the ones that kind of spoke to me, right? And they were the perfect martial art for me.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the caveat that I had to really convince myself of early on, because there were so many people that say, oh, you're doing this, that's garbage, this will never useful in this. And then other people are like, oh yeah, but you do, Taekwondo or whatever, that's garbage because blah, blah. And it comes down to, this is what I love and this is what I'm going to do. And even if it's not, what you want out of it, I love it and I'm enjoying it. You take that to your kids, and that sounds like something that, LeBron James is, or maybe the writers or whatever are saying in Space Jam 2, that you look at what your kids love. And I got to tell you, my kids want to talk about a YouTube video that they saw on, I don't know what, half the time. And I am just like, yeah, cool. I'm done. I have no interest in this whatsoever, but you have to put that aside. And that's a great lesson, I think. And if Space Jam 2 teaches people that, I think that's a wonderful effect that it can have. Because my kids love to play Roblox, and there's never been a day where I've woken up and said, I want to play Roblox, but I've done it.
Yeah.
And I've, not enjoyed it as much as I would like, let's say. Yeah. But again, it's about your kid. Mm-hmm. It's who he or she wants you to be, and being with them and spending time with them, and maybe being able to kind of channel their love of, whatever it is. Like, you love animals. I love animals too. We've been to the zoo 75 times. Maybe we could go on a nature hike and look for animals, where you're taking what they love and kind of trying to, can we please go someplace else or something? But yeah, that's a great lesson. And I'm really, it's great that the movie says that, presents that.
And I think that, compared to when the original came out to now, like, even the face of fatherhood has changed so much too.
Yeah.
Like, and so the fact that there's even freedom to even put that kind of a story out there, just tells a tale of what's gone on over the past, even 10 years. I mean, we're talking right now, I think Space Jam was 25 years ago or something like that. So yeah, you've got movies like that, and Boss Baby 2 came out, and it's got a character, the older brother is a stay-at-home dad in that. And so just, you got all that kind of stuff. It was a few years ago that The Incredibles 2 came out, and you had Mr. Incredible was a stay-at-home dad, and yes. It had the line that I think all of us grabbed hold of, I have to succeed so she can succeed. And so, just those kind of things. So like I said, this was definitely a bunny trail, but I wanted to bring it up because last night in the Dad Lounge, I was talking with Mark Green, who's an amazing author. He's written a bunch of books on fatherhood, actually. And I was telling him about it, and he was like, man, you need to write that down or do something with it. I'm like, well, actually we're going to be doing the podcast. I was like, I'm going to make sure to get it out there somehow, because more people need to know about it, and that, you don't have to sit there and grind your teeth through it and go, oh, this is awful, because there's actually a really good story to be heard in it for the parents, while the kids are just watching, goofy cartoon characters. I will say there's one really fun throwback to the original movie, and the four or five little monsters that turn into like the big goons that play the ball game. They're at the basket. They're at the game, the final game. Like they're there on the sidelines, and they show them like 3 or 4 times, like cheering for the bad team. And like, if you're a parent and has seen it or whatever, you're like, oh, that's so cool. Like, for most of the kids, like they didn't catch it at all. Even though my kids had seen the original Space Jam, they didn't pick it up. But yeah, it was it was a fun movie. I enjoyed it. So, and the kids had a good time watching it. So anyway, just wanted to put that in there. Kind of swinging the door shut on that and opening up the door that we actually decided to open tonight. So self-care, I know you're really big into it, but at the same time, self-care is one aspect of taking care of yourself. But I think you and I have dealt with something that's maybe even a bit more a step from just self-care, wouldn't you say? Yeah. So if you're listening to this, like, I really want you to think about and assess where you are, because I know me, like, I've had a chance to physically assess what's going on with me and some things that are going to be taking place in my life here soon because of it. How do you feel about where you're at with the things that you had experienced the other day?
Well, I will say I've never been good to myself. I've never been kind to my body. I've always demanded everything of it that I needed, whatever it was. And, I would work in the heat, in the cold, in the wind, in the rain. I don't care. We've got a job to do. We got to get the job done. And it takes a toll, of course. I have been more careful as I've gotten, even starting into my 30s, with things like my knees. I have fairly flexible, almost just really very flexible joints, but they're weak because they're flexible, and there's too much opportunity to hurt them. And especially now that, I'm 52, so I'm officially middle-aged now, not old at all. And I feel like if I hurt my knee, like injured it, it'd never heal ever. In my life, I would always have that bad knee, unless even with a surgery, I think it would still be that problem knee. So I've been much more careful about it over the past few years. But at the same time, I still have that. And I don't want to call it pride, but I think it could be seen as pride. But I have an expectation of myself and of my body and what I can do. And I'm a fairly strong person. I'm not like a bodybuilder, but I can pick up a refrigerator or whatever. I'm a big guy. And so I still demand more of myself. And this past week, over the weekend of last weekend, maybe Saturday, Sunday, I didn't warm up before I went and moved furniture. I didn't stretch. I didn't warm up. I just went and did it. I drove an hour over to my mom's house and just went straight into it. Let's move these giant pieces of furniture. Sure. And up and down stairs and into the truck and all that, and hurt my back just a little bit. And I didn't feel it that day, but at some point I twisted it, and Monday comes around. I'm like, oh, all right, that's fine. Let's just do it anyway. And that was a terrible idea. I got up Monday morning and went ahead and started doing stuff around here because we've got so much stuff to do. And my back basically said, okay, well, how about you can't walk now? And it was it's one of those just really sharp, the pain that you only feel when you have like a pinched nerve or something. And my kids are like, well, I don't want to do anything else. I'm like, I'm out working you and I can barely walk right now. I'm in a lot of pain. Get your stuff done. Stop complaining. Put this over. And I yelled at my teenager that I need your help. And we go back inside, and that was it. That was the complete. I went in and laid down, and I told Marnie, I said, look, I got to sit down and I can't get back up. I'm going to need to, soak in a hot tub. I'm going to need to put some stuff on my back, and I'm going to have to take the rest of the day off. And I took all of Monday off, really, and then today as well. I told her again, I said, look, I'm just going to lay here. I'm going to sit up. I'm going to get on the phone. I'm going to, well, I have a ton of stuff that I can do for the move and for the house and for all that stuff without actually having to get up and run around and do it. So
Yeah.
I sat on my butt all day today, but I was laid out on my back all day yesterday.
Yeah.
Simply because I didn't take care of myself. I didn't look at it and go, well, you need to warm up. You need to stretch. This.
Is it is it kind of that camp of it? Because when I hear you talking about that, to me, I think about the fact that I would be in that camp, and I've been there. I'm there. Of, well, I'm going to keep doing this until basically like I break down to the point where, the only reason that this is going to stop me is because it's going to send me to like actually have to get some sort of like surgery or something medically has to be done type of deal. Otherwise, like I'm just working through the pain. I'll pop some Advil, throw some icy hot on it and
mm-hmm.
continue on with my big bad self.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And with a lot of things, especially when you're young, you hurt yourself. Okay. Yeah. Well, you just get working, you warm it up, you get it moving, and you're fine. You just keep going, but your body isn't meant to do that. You're supposed to take care of yourself before you hurt yourself so that you don't get hurt,
Yeah, definitely. So. I can completely empathize with that because for me, I've had knee stuff, I've had back stuff, but it was a few years ago. I actually had an MRI done on my shoulder, and they found that I had like a partial tear in that area, and I did some physical therapy. They said that would help. They were like, you don't seem to be like a full-on candidate for surgery, so we're just going to send you through physical therapy. And I was like, all right, fine with that. So I did physical therapy for a while, and it seemed to help. And then it came back, and I was seeing, like, I was going to the chiropractor and getting stuff done. So I was doing little things. But at the same time, I was just like, I really don't want to go under the knife. Like, I don't like hospitals. They don't have a good place in my memory bank of things. But at the same time too, like, I'm like, I don't need to be out for that period of time. Like, I saw friends of mine who were getting the same surgery that, they were talking that this is something possibility. And it was like 6 to 8 weeks out, where you're in a sling and all this other stuff. And I was just like, nope, that's not for me. Like, I got things to do, people to see, and places to go. And, I push myself really hard, just like you do with the things that you're doing at home. And, I'm out mowing the yard and doing all kinds of gardening and home improvements here around the house. And the first time that I went and got that MRI, it was because, I kid you not, I pulled a trash bag out of the kitchen trash can, and I heard a pop in my shoulder.
Yeah.
And that was when I called. Yeah. And that's when I called the doc. And so that was the first one. And then just recently, so like I said, I've gone to done PT twice. I did PT during COVID, actually, for my shoulder because it was bugging me so bad. I was actually getting acupuncture at one point at my chiropractor, and it was just, nothing seemed to be helping. And then about 2 or 3 weeks ago, I went to the chiropractor a couple times. And the last time that I had went, like a day or two after, I pulled something or whatever, and I had pain from my right cheek underneath my eye all the way through that right side of my face, down my neck, in through my shoulder and down my side, kind of like in front of my stomach, and then it shot down my leg into my knee, and then also my elbow stuff. So like basically my entire right side was like aching, and I self-medicated the best I could and tried to do what I could. And I never told my wife I was in any kind of pain the entire time. And it got to the point where there was, I forget, I did something, and she just saw me like wince really hard. And she was like, "You okay? What happened?" And I was like, "I'm good." And then I was talking with some of the guys in the Bible study that I'm a part of on Thursday mornings. And that morning after I talked to them, I was like, hey, by the way, wife, I need to tell you about this. And like she was a little upset, but at the same time she was, glad that I told her what was up. So I went and had a consult with an orthopedic surgeon the other day,
Mhm.
and I've got an MRI scheduled for first week of August. We'll see what's going to happen. But it was just like, I mean, for me, I'm like, I don't want to do all this because Home Dad Con's coming and I want to be able to do this stuff. And my wife's like, if you don't take care of yourself, like you could end up injuring yourself to the point where you might not be able to attend Home Dad Con at all. And I'm like, ooh, I don't want that either. So,
Yeah.
and that's the thing, it's like you push yourself and do these things, and it's like, do you want to be out for a small amount of time, or do you want to be out
Mhm.
for a really long period of time and miss out on stuff? So yeah, that was a bit of a bit of a life change of a jerk on that one. Is like,
Yeah.
okay.
And the worst thing that I've done, I feel like maybe not this year. This year's been pretty rough, but at least in recent memory, was to have to tell myself to stay in bed on Monday. Canceled every single thing that I had going on. Unfortunately, it's summer, so the kids weren't, I'm like, hey, guess what? You can just sit around and read or play on screens. Just leave me alone. Don't fight. And I don't care what you do.
Right.
You have a vacation day from all your chores. Just leave me alone.
PJ day.
Right. But that just killed me. Oh my God. I cannot stand just laying there.
Yeah.
And today was worse because I felt good. I'm like, okay. So I don't move like that, but all right. Don't jog, obviously, but I can still walk. Maybe I can start. What, Danny? You gonna go cut the grass? What are you gonna do, Danny? You're gonna go move all that lumber out of your shop, and I just got lumber that no one's gonna take. It's old pine stuff that I can't get anybody. Okay, so you're gonna move maybe half a truck bed full of lumber out to the dumpster. Sure. Yeah, you moron. No, you're not. Lay down again. And I went and I actually told Marnie, and I said, yeah, I'm feeling good. I really am. If you need me to do these things, I will. But I think I should just take the day and just rest again. And of course, she was 100%. She was like, yeah, of course. Oh no, you're not better. No, go sit down. Don't be an idiot. Kind of thing. Very loving when she said it, but that's what I was saying to myself.
Yeah.
Because we have too many things to do. We have too much going on. But again, and like Corey said to you, looking at it, okay, so first week of August, let's say, all right, so let's say I get surgery, end of August? One, nobody wants to have surgery.
Yeah.
That's awful. But then again, all the stuff that you're not going to be able to do for the next through August, end of August, September, and then Home Dad Con, which is our biggest event of the year, yours and mine, but is definitely your biggest event of the last probably 3-4 years this year.
It's the biggest event of the last 2 years because I've been basically planning it for the last 2 years. So yeah.
And it's in your hometown. You've got all these other things. We've got the bourbon tour scheduled. We've got the photo walk tour scheduled. And so, okay, well, let's just put that off. Let's wait on the surgery until after October. So then you get to miss Thanksgiving. Well, okay, after November, you get to miss Christmas. Oh, well, let's wait to the first. No, you got to do it ASAP, even if it does put a little bit of a wrench in the works for what's going on. And that's really difficult to do.
Yeah.
I think.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it is. And it's one of those things where it's like, you really got to kind of suck it up and do it, because otherwise, if it gets worse or something else were to happen, because I stay pretty active, so someone calls me up, hey, I need to help moving XYZ thing, it's like, yeah, I'm feeling good, like I'll be there, no big deal. I don't need to injure myself or injure somebody else while trying to help somebody. And so it's one of those things that it sucks, but yeah, you got to take care of yourself, and that's the thing that we've always talked about. We have to take care of ourselves so that we can take care of our families.
Yep.
And not to try to share anybody else's story, I guess, but this is something that has been said over and over again by other dads that are doing different things. Like, you've got dads who are from like, hey, I'm thinking about going and seeing a therapist or a counselor or something along those lines. And what do you think about that? And it's amazing the people that come around for support. Yeah, like I've done that, and it helped. It benefited really well. Like I had a guy in my closed local group who was asking about like, hey, like, right now I've got these like free sessions. Once it's done, like I don't have insurance, or my insurance will do so much, but they want to charge me like X amount of money per hour. Does this sound like a good price, or should I be looking somewhere else? And it was amazing the amount of guys in the group, because I mean there's like 300 or 400 guys on that Facebook group that I've got, and there were probably 20 or 30 guys who jumped in there and were just like, yeah, man, like sounds like a great deal. Awesome to hear that you're getting that. And
Yeah.
I think, more guys coming out and just being supportive and encouraging to somebody who's willing to put that out there is awesome.
Yeah. And the more, the best way, the statement I've heard about is the more we talk about it, the more we normalize it.
Right.
Whereas my mom's generation was absolutely they would look around, make sure nobody was watching, go, I heard he's going or she's going to a therapist, and it was just such a stigma about it. It was so, well, you're obviously off your rocker, you're going to go to the loony bin,
Right.
Which was also, you call it a loony bin. Okay. Or the asylum, which at the time it was all we knew of what mental health was.
Right.
But now we have such a greater understanding that, I mean, you hear people, or I should say, I definitely hear people all the time saying, oh, you should have heard what my therapist told me. I couldn't believe it. Looked me right in the eye and said, blah, blah, blah. And I'm thinking, that's the most truth I've ever heard, and it's just as normal for me now, as an example, that it's just like you told me you went to your doctor.
Yeah.
Your therapist is no different than your doctor. And people say, well, I wonder if maybe I should absolutely go to a therapist. Marnie and I are going to go to a marriage counselor once we get moved.
Yeah.
Marnie and I don't have any problems that we're aware of. We don't,
Right.
we don't fight. We get along really well. But we've been married for 16 years, and we're looking at the children moving out, like I'll have a kid that's voting in the next election. What? Presidential election.
Wow.
So we're looking at, we've changed a lot. Who we are when we started is not who we are now.
Yeah.
And Marnie and I were talking about it. So why don't we just, find a marriage counselor and just have a couple of sessions and see if there's anything maybe we can work on or improve on. But you're looking at proactive action.
Yeah.
Which is a big part of what our discussion about self-care and about physical care, I think, should revolve around, because that's something that I never learned to do.
Well, that falls in line with what Corey talks about all the time, is protecting your castle. And that right there falls into that exact category of protecting your castle. So, and I think that a lot of times, you get guys who are like, how did we get to this place? And it's like, well, you let your guard down. Like you weren't protecting your castle or whatever, or you were being too quiet and not speaking up when the situation was, when you could have had a chance to maybe, set things in a different trajectory kind of deal. And you see that kind of stuff all the time, whether it's in the stay-at-home dad world or just, marriage world itself. Like, don't sweep it under the rug or think, that's not that big a deal. Oh yeah. Like even the smallest deal, you got to talk about it. So yeah, that's awesome, man.
I don't know if you knew this, but Marnie put the milk in the refrigerator wrong for the first 5 years that we were married. So
wait, just so that I can make sure that I'm not doing
this
that.
This is a joke.
Okay. It's handle out, right? Like that's
there's a meme that says, before I got married, I never even knew there was a wrong way to put milk in the fridge, and that's what it is those little things that you do it on a daily basis, and your partner's going, takes the milk out, turns it around, or what, puts it on the right side. I don't know what the wrong way is. I really don't. As long as it's in the fridge, I'm kind of okay.
What about the photos of the guys who post like what is it?
About the dishwasher.
No, the egg carton. And they take out eggs like in like some weird way, but it's not like from one side to the other.
Yeah, it's just randomly pulling eggs out of the carton.
It's like my wife is a tyrant.
This is anarchy, and I won't put up with it.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and for me too, it's like, when you do that, it's like I always pull out the egg cartons, open it up, take the eggs from the furthest out, That way the
Mhm.
heavy part of it is on the front, so I can put it back in. That way, you know, like how many eggs are there. And that's not how some people do it.
Mm-mm.
And
I,
so,
I
yeah.
do right then left to even out the weight so that the middle is the heaviest.
Oh, okay. Well, that's a different way to do it.
Only because for me, in my mind, numerically, we're balancing it out. And it's just, I'm not going to try to defend that. I'm not going to say it's okay. It's just when I look at it, I'm like, well, there's 4 eggs missing on the right hand side. We obviously need to take 4 eggs off the left hand side to even it out.
Yeah.
It's got to be synchronous. It does it? Does it really? It's a carton of eggs. I think we're okay here, but I still do it, you know.
Oh man.
But
So,
little things like that,
yeah.
that, in my opinion, it's like with anything that you do, you know, taking your car in for a checkup, taking yourself in for a checkup, even if everything's going great. My wife and I want to go and sit down with someone who isn't us, basically, and who has a good deal of knowledge of the psychology of how couples operate, and can say, oh, well, I don't know if you guys recognize it, but this and this.
Yeah.
And then we can hopefully look at it and not end up when our kids all move out, not knowing who we married, you know, not knowing who this person is anymore.
Yeah. And in your guys' I mean, in most people's situation over the past 18 months, I mean, we've all gone through a pandemic, for crying out loud. And our marriages have all been strained in different ways and things. But on top of that, too, you guys put in the fact that you're relocating to a different place. And there are some families that have done that as well, you know, or changed their lifestyle up in some kind of way. And it's like all these different changes. And it's like those are the times when it's not a bad idea to have an arbitrator, somebody in the middle that can just be like, all right, let's talk about this stuff. Like what's going, you know, get things out there. And, you know, you think about it too, like how many times do married couples take the time to stop and just have a conversation? Unless you schedule it, most times you're just two ships passing in the night, you know?
Right.
And so I know that that's something that, you know, Corey and I try to do, is try to set up times where it's like, all right, we're just going to sit here and talk. Sometimes it turns into like summer camp at night where we're like up way late. It's like, oh, it's 2:00 in the morning and we're just talking, but it's such a breath of fresh air to have that opportunity to just enjoy each other's company and conversation. And so, yeah, man, I applaud you for doing that. Cause I think more couples need to do that. Hopefully anybody that's listening to this, that they might take a cue from it as well and give it a go. Don't be scared to talk to your spouse or partner about the fact that maybe you just need to talk to somebody with them in the room. So another part to that, so with the taking care of each other stuff, we can get into like the really drastic side of it. So, you know, the dad lounge has been awesome for getting to know lots of guys. And I'm not sharing any names or anything like that. I'm actually going to keep this story pretty blurry, I guess. But let's just put it this way. If you're in a situation where you have been in constant pain, and then you have a doctor or whatever that says like, you need to get in here for XYZ thing, and you start questioning it, like, nah, I don't need that, or whatever it is, like you really need to check yourself, like on why it is that you think you don't need that when a medical professional is saying like, this is needed. Because in the case of this situation, and I think that there are probably other guys who I've heard have similar stuff, like you could get yourself to a point where you're looking at a terminal situation. Like you don't take care of yourself, like it could be the end of your life. Do you really want that much heavy to fall on your family? Like, honestly, like your kids don't need that. They don't need to go through that trauma, you know, that kind of thing. And so to me, like I've heard multiple guys state, you know, like I just let it get to the point where like I basically put myself in a life or death situation because of the decisions that I made. And you're just like, man, like, don't do that. Like, seriously, take care of yourself. Like, you know, there are so many people that care for you along with your kids and stuff like that. Like, you know, sometimes it's like you were talking about pride. It's like that to me, like that's like swallow your pride and go get taken care of.
Yes. Yeah. There's so much about what we do as, you know, being, because we're men first, then we're dads, and then we're at-home dads, right? So you have kind of a hierarchy of what your thinking must be. But growing up, most of us did kind of just like, I'm fine, I'll rub some dirt in it. And even these days, that's still a matter of this is kind of how we deal with what's going on. Is I have to be the strong one. I have to be the one that's shouldering this, whatever it is. And I'm the one that's carrying us through. I'm the one carrying this family. I'm like a solid foundation and everybody is on me and I'm got them. Yeah, maybe. But one, no, because you're in a partnership and your spouse is, or your significant other, whatever, is 100% with you, and they need to be with you. They need to be taking this up too. But the mentality that we as men have to avoid admitting that it hurts,
Right.
you know. Now, granted, nobody wants to be around a whiner. All right. And that's something that is a thing. But, you know, if we're out and we have to work and it's raining and all I do is talk about, oh, it's still raining. I hate that it's raining. Okay. That's, well, you shut up, man. Come on. Just, we got to finish the job. You're not getting hurt. But if you get out and you slip in the rain and you twist your knee, right? You slip in the mud or whatever, you twist your knee and then you just keep walking on it. Right. Nah, that's not good. That's where we've moved to the point where you're not immortal, you're not invulnerable, you're not Superman. You've hurt yourself. Mm-hmm. And if you, the difference, I always like to delineate between, okay, this hurts, but this is injured.
Yeah.
So you slip and you hurt your knee. Okay. So take some time to let it heal or keep working on it and injure it. And then it's going to be something much more serious where we get into things like, well, I've got to go to, you know, the doctor for this or that as a repair, as opposed to, hey, I just called the nurse up at the doctor's office and wanted to make sure that it was okay. And I just need to wrap up my knee and put some ice on it or whatever, or do whatever I have to do before you keep working on it, rip it out. And then you've got to go, you know, to the doctor for surgery. So.
Well, it's like you see, I think that you make a good example there with the fact that you twist your knee or whatever, or you do something where it's like, you know, say you injure yourself to the point where like, I'm good. And you like hobble away or whatever. And like later that night or whatever, you know, you're getting undressed to get a shower or whatever. And you look at your knee and it's all swollen and like,
swollen, you know, can't
like
move.
20 different colors. And you're like, oh shit. And so like, then you go to like the hospital and get it looked at and they're like, oh yeah, by the way, like gangrene has started to like set in and we're going to have to like, but I mean, you think about it, like those are the kind of, it's like, you don't know like what that twist has done. I mean, and that's the kind of stuff where it's like, if you have something internal and so I guess it just comes down to the fact of like, you don't have to be this big, like, oh yeah, I'm good, I'm fine, everything's cool. It's like, no, man, if you're hurt, say you're hurt for crying out loud and go get help. Like, don't think that like, you know, none of us are freaking superheroes for crying out loud. And so why try to be that? Like, that's just dangerous. So, but yeah, I just wanted to bring this topic up and talk about it. I just felt like, you know, the conversations that we were having just personally over text message about what you were going through and what I was going through. I was like, hey, this will make a great topic, man. Like we have some personal things we can get out there. But I mean, and that's the part that I love about this podcast is that we can put that out there. And I don't think it anyway, we're alone in that. I feel like, you know, like I said, we've already shared some stories of other dads, but I think there are plenty of other guys out there who are not addressing serious issues in their lives, whether it be relational or whether it would be mental or physical. Like those things have to be assessed. You have to know, you have to be able to take the time and look at it and then take care of it. Like, don't worry about the fact of things like, oh, it's going to take time away, or, oh, I don't know if we're going to have the finances to do XYZ things. Like there are things out there to help you, like go get the help. Like that's, you know, there are, we found that there are hospitals that if you have incurring medical bills that you can't pay, like there are ways to put in for, you know, having almost the entire bill washed because they take care of it, because hospitals have that ability to just basically take your bill and say, okay, like your income is not suitable for this and you don't have insurance or your insurance doesn't cover all this other stuff. Like, great, we can take care of it. No big deal. So I really, really hope that anybody listening to this, or if you know somebody that needs to hear this, that's, you know, then listens to it, that you take action. If something triggered in your thought while you were hearing Danny and I, like take action on it, because we want to see, you know, we want to see good things. We want people to stay healthy, and you've got to you have to sometimes verbally even say it out loud. Like I have this issue I need to take care of, and that's usually a good first step. Or tell somebody.
Yeah. I think the thing that I come back to a lot of times with the podcast and with the network, and I just want to say it, and I'm going to say it to you, Brock, and I'm going to say it to all the dads in our network that are listening. Any of you that I meet, you may not like me, and I may not like you, and that may be a thing because I've got a pretty awkward personality. However, I do love you. And as a dad, my opinion of how I am as a dad, it's to be a loving person, which is absolutely what a dad is, or what a dad should be. And part of that being a loving person is to give you a little bit of a kick in the butt sometimes, to tell you, hey, you need to take care of yourself, whether it's your emotional health, your mental health, your marriage, even your social health, whatever it might be that you're looking at, that you have sitting in front of you, or that's keeping you from being, honestly, I'll say this like I say to my kids, the best version of yourself.
Yep.
Whatever it is, address it, look at it, take care of it, take care of yourself. I love you guys, and I don't want to see any of you get hurt.
Sounds like a good place to end. Awesome, man. Yeah, I completely agree with those sentiments for sure. I know it's a big love fest, hug fest at Home Dad Con, but man, I tell you what, like it is such a wonderful brotherhood. And I know that there's a lot of guys online too, but I hope that those guys online feel, needed, wanted, and accepted and supported while, they're in
seen.
there and seen. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I hope that this, this kind of thing and whatever else you can do to connect with other people, help you to get to those points. So thanks for sharing that, Danny. That was awesome. I like that. Like we had to say a lot. That was great. And that was unrehearsed, folks.
Yeah. If anybody knows me, I don't rehearse anything. It just was coming out. What is Danny going to say? Oh, well, that one was good. That one was bad though. We got to edit that one out.
All good. So before we go, last one little plug I'm going to put in here, because I feel like we need to talk. We just basically need to bring it up every week. Is we're getting closer to Home Dad Con. It's getting really exciting. We've put a lot of really cool things in line. Actually, when this airs, we will have the very first speaker announcement will go out. And from that week on, there will be speakers, presenters, and sponsors that will be announced. So some more fun stuff for us to talk about on the show. I'm excited to definitely dive into some of these speakers, because I've had personal contact with most of them. And so we'll get a little bit of inside information on what they're going to be doing. But yeah, I'm excited. Like I'm glad to finally start pushing out that marketing for Home Dad Con, and it's going to be exciting.
Yeah, it is.
So if you haven't registered for it, go to homedadcon.org. You can register for tickets, get yourself your hotel room, and then see us October 14th through the 16th in Cincinnati at the Embassy Suites River Center, Cincinnati, which is actually in Covington. Yeah. Are you confused yet? It says Cincinnati. We're actually in Covington, Kentucky. You're going to fly into CVG, which is in Kentucky, but it's a Cincinnati greater. That whole area is really confused on their identity.
I think it comes from all the bourbon. I think that's what it is. There's just so much bourbon. Others like, where are we now? I think we're in Kentucky.
It's the combination of the bourbon and the beer. Like it all just runs together. It just all runs together. Yeah.
I think this is a great place to put a street.
Yeah. This is awesome. Can we get some bridges so I don't have to swim across this dirty river? Oh, shoot. All right. Well, on that note, we're definitely going to hit the stop button on this thing. So, all right. Well, we'll talk to y'all next week, and we'll have more Home Dad Con information at that point. So y'all have a great week.
Oh, yeah. Good night, everybody.
I'm a dad, that's what I do.